Hey guys, just a reminder, if you want to hear all of these wonderful B Plus podcast episodes completely ad-free, make sure you head over to Patreon or Podbean, where we are the featured podcast this week. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month up to $10 a month, where anything you want to help us with, it really helps out. It's going to help us grow the site. It's going to help us redesign some things, and everything that we get through this and through the advertising as well is all going straight back into the podcast so that we can get Aussie Graps out there for the rest of the world to hear about, for the rest of the world to see, so we can grow this mission of watch global, support local, and build indie wrestling. So if you want to be a part of that and get some really cool rewards like call-in shows, bonus episodes, ad-free like I mentioned, then head over to patreon.com/theb+ and subscribe today.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one. Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God.
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two. On bar.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Dummy. Yeah.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three. The moss covers. Three-handle family redunzo.
Mamma mia.
And now,
Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin. It was me all along, Austin.
number four, armbar.
I will never retire.
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
B Plus players, good morning and welcome to the B Plus Wrestling Podcast. I am Mr. Mysterious and I'm going to be talking all the rest, where we talk about all the wrestling news that doesn't fit into our scheduled programming, all the hot goss that's come right across the desk. Of course, you have our Kings of the Sport Universe podcast, Aussie Graps, and View from the WWE Universe, but today you're listening to me, the man of mystery, in the mystery spot here. I am highly caffeinated, getting ready here in WA. We are ready to go. Before we start, of course, guys, a little birthday news. It was a bit quiet for last week. For those of you guys who know that I'm the main contributor on the Facebook page, and I like to share a little birthday goss, little like, oh, that's nice, start to your day. So with that being said, at the time I'm recording, we have the inaugural WWE Intercontinental Champion Pat Patterson turned 78. A very incredible feat. A long-time colleague of Vince McMahon. So he still works in the back with the WWE headquarters there. Ron Killings, aka R-Truth, people over there, what's up and all that, turns 47. You would not think it. He hides his age very well. He's still going in WWE, as much as WWE want to relegate him to just being a little comedic act with Carmella, dance break and all that. 47. Fun fact, he is the very first African-American to hold the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Of course, that was back when he was, I believe, in TNA when it first started up, and NWA was associated with TNA Impact there. A lot of history behind the man. And of course, Prince Pretty, Tyler Breeze, one half of Breezango, turns 31. I know a lot of the Breezango fan base is very diverse. I know a few people here in Perth. It's very wholesome. It's very sweet. We have a lot of news to talk about, guys. We have MLW news. We have AEW news. We have a bit of Being the Elite. We have a whole bunch of stuff. So how about I get into it with episode 39 of MLW, heralded by Dreamer versus Pillman Singapore Cane match. Now, this one started off pretty okay. It was more of a cartoony chasing, because the prevailing thing throughout this episode of MLW was that Sami Callihan got his ass handed to him by Selena De La Renta, making him look like a complete chump, saying he wants to get paid, but he didn't defeat Tom Lawler. So she's saying, if you want to make it up to me, go find him. But they're shouting so loudly, and who is behind the door while they're shouting their lungs out at each other? Filthy Tom Lawler. And we have a little nice cartoon skit where all throughout the episode, Tom Lawler is just casually walking around MLW headquarters, and Sami Callihan is just trying to annoy and berate anyone that walks by him. He comes off really stupid in this. The mercenary comes off like completely inept. As much as I liked it, I don't want them to continue in this route because I think they need to give Callihan a little bit of credibility to his name still. They can't dumb him down in the coming weeks. So while this was funny, I don't want to see this be a prevailing thing. But in terms of matches, we had a fair few good ones here. We had Dragon Lee going up against Rich Swann. This one was a great flippy match to start off with. Interesting enough, because Rich Swann has had a bit of bad luck in MLW. He's not really had a lot of victories to his name. And the commentary team, it's a little thing I noticed that throughout the match, he did actually try and rip at Dragon Lee's mask. And they kind of really paid attention to that, saying like, oh, he's looking for a particular edge. And although he didn't really escalate any more than that, I feel like they're going to hint at maybe a heel turn at some point, because MLW have taken some hits. If you guys haven't noticed, I'm going to be talking a lot of news about signings and injuries and everything else, not only with MLW, but with everyone else. But yeah, MLW really needs to start pushing certain characters along. So I can see Rich Swann being a good heel. He's not really doing much for me as a babyface, to be honest, but we'll see how we go in the next coming weeks. But yeah, they did all the spots. Swann did a frog splash onto Dragon Lee. Swann would go for the Phoenix Splash. This is the finish. But Dragon Lee moved out of the way, and it gave enough time to hit his Dragon Driver for the win. And after the match, yeah, Lee goes for the handshake, and Swann raises his arm. So they're kind of teasing for that one. So I'm glad more lucha talent, please, especially with all the bloody injuries. My God, man. So after that, we have a couple promos leading up to the Singapore Cane match. We had Brian Pillman Jr. talking about how he's tired of all the old timers trying to ride on his legacy and his father's legacy, which, yeah, that's perfectly valid. I don't fault him for saying that. And of course, we had Tommy Dreamer last week talk about how he loves the cane and he hates the cane. So, and he did talk about it a little bit more here, saying he's just got this relationship with this cane where when he was back in the old time days and they used to get caned, all that stuff. So we had the Singapore Cane match in the middle of the show, which surprisingly I thought this was going to be the main event for episode 39. Didn't work out that way, but I wasn't disappointed. Maybe they're trying to work up to Pillman having the main event spot. Obviously, we have the Lucha Bros Hart Foundation tag match for the tag team titles coming up for Super Fights, so they're slowly getting there. Of course, we have Low Key, who was the main event, which I'll get to in a second. But the Singapore Cane match, it turned out pretty well. It was pretty standard fare. So Dreamer would chop Pillman. Pillman moved out of the way. Pillman would work on Dreamer's injured hand. Of course, he had it taped up a little bit. So eventually, Tommy was kind of peeling off the layers of Pillman, getting rid of the Playboy suit and everything else. And of course, once all the chest is out, here comes the cane. And these shots were nasty. The end of the match was Brian Pillman setting up Dreamer for a spinning neckbreaker finish maneuver. And after that, it was all said and done. Brian Pillman Jr. won. There was, of course, the spot where they seem to have this low blow spot coming about. That's the prevailing thing in their matches. And Pillman did hit that on Tommy Dreamer with the cane. That was the big factor there. I was really impressed with Pillman. There was a lot more wrestling more so in this than cane shots. And as much as it's just a no DQ match, but it's just apparently you could only use canes. So all in all, and especially with no help, I should mention that, no other members of the Hart Foundation were there. It was just Brian Pillman settling a score with the old-timer, quote-unquote, the innovator of violence, Tommy Dreamer. I really enjoyed this, and again, more heat, more build-up for the Superfight Tag Title match. All for it. We have a couple promos building up for the next few weeks. MLW has announced they are signing Mance Warner, the Southern Psycho. He will be appearing on MLW TV very soon. One thing I've noticed that, obviously, because this is the time for the signings, it's a perfect time to be an independent wrestler in 2019. The signing wars have begun. The bell is tolled, but these guys are really going into it now. But one thing I've noticed, especially with the names that MLW has signed, there are a lot of independent stars that aren't established names for themselves, if that makes sense. Whereas, like, you've got people like Ring of Honor who signed stars with a bit more history, more like few years in the business, or like who've had previous stints in like Impact or WWE, whatever the case may be. But yeah, it looks like MLW are really trying to drive home the independent feel. So happy for them here. We had recaps to Pentagon Jr. being taken out by Promociones Dorado, and they had the Pentagon losing to Teddy Hart last week. So they are hammering home all that stuff, and we had that again. So for Super Fight, I'll run down the card. We did mention this in last week's episode as well. So we got Simon Gotch versus Ace Romero, Ray Horus versus Aerostar. Mance Warner will debut at Super Fight. You have the world title match between Low Ki and Filthy Tom Lawler, and the world tag team title match between the Lucha Bros and the Hart Foundation. The card is looking really stacked. I love it. So the main event for this night was Fred Yehai, a member of Team Filthy, going against the professional, Low Ki. I was surprised. I don't know if I was paying attention last week properly, but I didn't think this was a heavyweight championship match. It didn't feel like it was built enough properly. Like, again, maybe that might be my attention span, but I wasn't expecting much from this, and I'm really surprised. This was just a very standard match. Like, I wouldn't call it a squash, but it was all low-key. It lasted for about, I'd say just over 5 minutes, where Fred Yehai, at the start, he had a bit of momentum going for him. They did announce it very much like a UFC fights, which is one thing that Loki does like to do when he's trying to build something up. So Loki found an opening and hit a huge sickle-like blow to Yehai's head, and it allowed Loki to hit the double foot stomp on the back of Fred Yehai, and he picked up the win. It was, standard. I was really surprised, especially as well. Also to mention, no escalation. So they got Promociones Dorado got fined about $15,000 each. I believe Selena or Ricky Martinez, they got $7,500. But the point is, they all got fined for their actions when they shanked Conan, and Loki has been getting more aggressive and more violent. Surprisingly, no. Like, for this one, after Fred Yehai, I thought, especially given Fred Yehai being a member of Team Filthy, who was not accompanied by Tom Lawler. Like, we say he's a member of Team Filthy, but it doesn't feel like a team. It doesn't feel like a faction. It just feels like, oh, they just walk Tom Lawler to the ring sometimes, in which they haven't done for a very long time. So, yeah, it was just a standard match. No escalation afterwards. They just left Yehai alone, and I think they just wanted to let their actions speak for themselves. And we ended, of course, with Sami Callihan finally figuring out where Tom Lawler was. He goes into a locked room after Tom Lawler's been in there. There's a scream. Out comes Tom Lawler with a hammer, looking all deranged, and yeah, that's how we ended it. As much as we didn't see anything, and it's like, it was alright. It was an entertaining match. We really ramping up for MLW Superfight, which is the main point of this episode, because we are only just a couple weeks out from Superfight, which I am very excited for. We do have the promos, we have the preview for episode 40, where we'll have Rush going up against Shane Strickland, who is now a free agent, apparently, according to his Twitter. So I don't know how many more tapings of MLW we'll see with Swerve. We even talked about it last week. Where Swerve be at? Here he be at. We've got Ace Romero going up against Ariel Dominguez, Gringo Loco versus Ricky Martinez, and the Hart Foundation going up against the Dirty Blondes, which will be, I'm looking forward to that one. Absolutely, like more tag teams, damn it. And according to this, Loki will be celebrating 15 years of dominance in MLW. They mentioned that he is undefeated in MLW since 2004, which sounds impressive, and they really hammer that point home, but we got to remember the fact that MLW kind of resurfaced back in 2017, 2018. So it sounds impressive, but it sounds like off of 15 consecutive years, Loki was on top. But they don't want to hammer the point. They're like, we weren't doing anything in the late 2000s, like early 2010s. But I'll let them have it. It's just a bit of fun. I will say, one of the things that you should notice, because last week's episode, a couple weeks ago, the big promotion event was that LA Park was going to have this match against Rush in April in this CMML collaboration with MLW in the quote match of the century. That's how they pegged it. And what has happened since? Fucking Ring of Honor has signed an exclusive deal with Rush. The leader of Los Ingobernables has made sure that they have signed Rush just moments after he's been having a couple of matches in MLW, which absolutely sucks. MLW have been taking so much hits, but they're still standing. So I was really looking forward to that one. They have since replaced that with LA Park going up against Pentagon Jr. in a rematch from their match last year, which I believe was called the Match of the Year for 2018 for MLW. So as much as we want to say like, oh, it's a quick replacement and it's this kind of thing to scoff at or something or other, any match with Pentagon Jr. is a show stealer. And LA Park is phenomenal. So I can see them only escalating things from their previous match. I think it can go even further beyond. Is there a form even further beyond with LA Park and Pentagon Jr.? I believe so. So with MLW out of the way, guys, let's go focus on episode 134 of Being the Elite, Change the Universe. Be elite. You know you want to sing it too. Don't judge me. This one was focusing on the Double or Nothing rally happening with AEW. So a lot of backstage stuff for that one. No real news, no real new news coming out of that, I would say. We had a nice little opening where the Young Bucks were talking to Britt Baker, who is the first official member of their women's roster. And she kind of said, well, this is nice and all, but you want to talk about the elephant in the room? And he's like, oh, what are you guys talking about? And I thought they were going to say like, oh, there's no other women announced yet. Like, it can't be a division if there's only like one woman. Of course, you have Brandy and stuff, but she brought a little bit of history back into it, saying like, remember you guys killed my boyfriend Adam Cole? Oh, that was perfect setup. I spat my drink out at that one. I shouldn't do that when I watch Being the Elite, but there we go. We focused on the Young Bucks being treated to a very lavish plane ride over to the AEW rally with their families, which was really sweet. We had SCU having a bit of wine, a bit of cocktails here and there. And, of course, Snickers was mentioned. The candy bit is happening. And Matt Jackson found them, and, of course, made sure that SCU had their Snickers, which was really cute. It was a very elongated beat. He's just like, he hopped on the plane, he hopped in a car ride, he hopped into the safest hotel room he could find, and Matt's just there. This is like, that was really cool. But yeah, we had an extended look at the rally, which was awesome. You had a couple segments there was a photo shoot with AEW, where you had the Young Bucks and Hangman Page, the photographers doing the yes, show me love, yes, no, no, doing all that. They are teasing that Hangman Page will have a bit of a feud with Neville going forward for the AEW singles title. I don't know what they're going to go with, the heavyweight title or what have you. But yeah, you would have seen it from the rally anyways. We saw Joey Janela. We have not seen him for a long time on Being the Elite, so congratulations to him. I will say as well, one of the things we noticed about AEW is the fact that they're allowing their roster to still be independent stars. It's not exclusive contracts with AEW. They are allowing their stars to be their own people, which we'll be talking about contracts a lot in this episode, if you haven't already caught on. So Joey Janela is still allowed to do his spring break events, which always are a highlight, especially around WrestleMania weekend time. So you had Joey Janela flopping with a football, SCU moaning on the football field as I want to see this. Someone mentioned this on YouTube, I think, where like I just want them to just slowly pan away from SCU while they're screaming, and just like this really elongated shot, how kind of like how people do the big no and the camera pulls back. I want that to happen. The more SCU kind of say this is the worst town, like just keep it really like keep the bit going, just where they're just completely like going off their nut, you know. It should be really fun. And one of the big things I love from this episode of Being the Elite, Cody introduced MJF to the Elite, and he's just like, oh, hey guys, how you doing? And the moment Cody's out of the room, he's just like, I hate all of you. And like, just no joke, once, of course, Cody and once Cody and MJF left that room, Hangman Page is just like Cody. If you missed the kind of back and forth between Cody and Flip, since Flip is no longer a part of Being the Elite, you're going to have some more of that, I think, with Maxwell J. Friedman, which I'm very happy with, of course. And we ended with Chris Jericho doing the big speech at the rally, if you didn't watch it already, on Being the Elite, on the AEW YouTube channel and everything else, saying we're not only going to change the state of wrestling, we're going to change the universe, baby. I was looking forward, like, of course AEW are saying all the right things, and of course we're going to give you guys every morsel of information that comes out about AEW over the coming weeks and months and everything else. And it sounds like they're saying all the right things, but at the same time, a lot of this could be all lip service with all the stuff that comes out. So as much as we want to hype things up, and we want you guys to feel hyped about this brand new thing, just keep your expectations level. Don't raise them too much, because again, we mentioned this last week, they're not in competition with WWE as much as it's a contract war right now. My God, it's a definite contract war. But in terms of going up against WWE, they're not at that level yet. And it's people who are thinking that this is what this is, you're kidding yourselves. So anything with AEW it could lead to that. But just, again, everything we tell you guys, just keep it with a grain of salt. So I want to touch on, before we cut to a little quick break, NWA. We didn't get a 10 pounds of gold episode this week, which is unfortunate, but NWA did upload a video with Tim Storm going up in a 2-on-1 challenge And the tagline was, will Tim Storm accept the challenge for the 10 pounds of gold? Where he has been given the offer by Nick Aldis. If he wants to have a shot, it's his. But if he loses, he can never go for the NWA World Championship ever again. Now, Tim Storm, 55-year-old man, history teacher. As much I want him to have one final run, this is going to be a very emotional match. No matter the result, I'm going to probably be crying. Because even before, like during the break, when we had the holiday break, I caught up with all the episode of 10 Pounds of Gold, and I kept up to date with the story of the man known as Tim the Perfect Storm. I would recommend it, guys, even though a lot of the news is, like, obviously it's happened a couple of years ago now, but it's worth watching, and it's good. Anything to do with the history of the NWA is really good to watch, I will say. But this episode of NWA video, Tim Storm is trying to go up against Peter Avalon, and one of the managers comes out and says, oh, you will get your shot at him, but only if you beat these two jobber people that we just picked out of the parking lot, which it might not be the case, but one of the guys, I believe his name was Frankie Frank. So that should probably tell you the caliber of people they brought to make it seem like Tim Storm was in a credible, challenging situation. Tim Storm has a new submission finisher. I don't like it. It doesn't look like it's, of course, like any wrestling submission, you have to be able to apply safely. But at the same time, you need to make it look like you're applying a lot of pressure and that it looks painful. The way he's got it, it's kind of like a chokehold, but he's holding the arm back. But it does not, it looks like a really weird chicken wing. It does not look like it hurts. And as much as we want to make it seem like, oh, Tim Storm is this real badass, he has a dark side to him, which has been a prevailing theme since he has lost the NWA World Title, it looks kind of silly. It might grow on me, this new submission hold, but I don't know. He really needs to look like he apply more pressure. Like, go watch, like, subscribe to the NWA first off. Like, what are you doing? Like, just click on another link and look at it and check it out for yourselves. Obviously, like, let me know. Like, message me on the socials and just say, like, oh no, I think it looks alright. But yeah, so we've covered a lot already, guys. NWA, AEW, MLW, of course. And before we get started with all the wrestling news, I will cut to super producer Greg to talk about our sponsors.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Sorry to interrupt, guys. We're going to get back to the interview in just a second, but first, just want to talk to the blokes in the audience. Let's be honest. We all want to look good. Whether we're going out to the local Graps show, whether we're going out with friends, whatever we're doing, we want to look good. But we don't necessarily, we're not all Nikki Van Blair with daddy's credit card spending up a spree. We don't all necessarily like the shopping aspect that it takes to look good. And that's where Threadbox comes in. Threadbox is a monthly subscription box that sends personalized clothing to your door. When I say personalized clothing, I'm not talking about the weird stuff that has your name on it and says it's a family thing or whatever. I'm not talking about those things that you get on the Facebook ads. I'm talking about real, personalized, personal shopping experience. If you need shirts, they're going to look at shirts. If you need singlets, they're going to look at singlets. If you need shoes, they're going to look at shoes. You're in email contact with a stylist who will build a style profile based on how you like to look. I've got the fresh duds. CJ gets the classic box where, a little bit plainer in his outlook, whereas I like to have funky patterns. And they're going to personalize that and tailor it to you and to your needs. And what's more is it's available on every budget with boxes starting from just $40. So if you want to look good with less effort and without all the pesky shopping stuff, if you want someone else to handle that for you, head over to threadbox.com.au, and because you are a B Plus player, they're going to give you 15% off your first box when you use the code the B Plus 15. That's threadbox.com.au. Use the code the B Plus 15 and get your first box today. January is here and we are fast approaching WrestleMania season. Royal Rumble and the road to WrestleMania are around the corner, so the time to dilly-dally is past us. If you want to experience WrestleMania live, and who doesn't, let's be honest, you deserve it. The best and really the only way to do it is with All Aussie Travelers. All Aussie Travelers are new to the wrestling travel package game, but they are veterans at travel, and they have put together a package that cannot be beaten. For less than $7,500, All Aussie Travelers are going to send you to New York, New York, with return flights, airport transfers, full accommodation, and tickets to the WWE Hall of Fame, NXT pre-show party, NXT TakeOver, WrestleMania, Monday Night Raw, SmackDown Live, and more. The coolest part about these packages is that for NXT TakeOver, Raw, and SmackDown, you are going to be seated in your own private VIP suite, normally not available to the public, but All Aussie Travelers have you covered, man. They got this locked down. It has its own bar, it has its own bathroom access, and all the luxuries that a VIP box comes with, not least of which, of course, an incredible view for everything happening in the ring. All of this for under $7,500. They're practically giving these packages away, man. You'd be crazy not to check it out. So head over to All Aussie Travelers on Facebook. The link is in the show notes, and tell them that the B Plus sent you. And let's go watch WrestleMania in style.
And we are back, guys. Now, we are going to be talking a lot of stuff today in terms of injuries, returns, offers. So many offers. My God. This is the best year to be an independent star in professional wrestling, because your price tag has gone up. Really up. Now, I usually talk about the injury list to start off this second half of All The Wrest. Some new additions on the indie side of things over in Ring of Honor. Like last year, if you didn't notice with a couple of episodes, the prevailing injury going around was the pectoral muscle. You had Triple H do his pec at Crown Jewel. You had Joey Ryan do his pec. And, of course, like over here in Perth, you had the child star, Taylor King, do his pec as well. He's only just recovered from that, which, follow EPW, guys. It's great. But in terms of the international scene, now it looks like the thing is the knee injuries, because we have 3 stars on the shelf now because of knee injuries. We have Flip Gordon, Chris Sabin, and over in Impact, Matt Sydal, aka Evan Bourne, former WWE star, all with knee injuries. This sucks. And they were both this past weekend. And the severity, we don't know how severe these injuries are. They're obviously going to do further tests. But Sabre was injured while wrestling Flip, Shane Taylor, Luchasaurus, Rhett Titus, and Kenny King. Gordon's injury occurred on Sunday. So on one day it was Sabre, the next day it was Flip, which sucks. But yeah, Flip Gordon's one happened during a match against Tracy Williams, and the match was stopped early, and Flip Gordon had to be helped to the back. So, of course, we want these guys to obviously have a speedy recovery. Like Chris Sabin, I love the Motor City Machine Guns when I was growing up watching Impact. One of the best parts of Impact was the Motor City Machine Guns, and of course Chris Sabin is a very accomplished singles wrestler, but that's just where I know him most. Like, that's where I'm most fond of him. And Flip, we want nothing but the best for Flip, especially since he's no longer a part of the Elite, which he might sign up with AEW down the line, and it might be a nice little reunion moment. And of course, like Matt Sydal, I have not been following Impact as much, but now, of course, if you watched last week's episode, you know that we can, in Australia, legally. Fantastic, which I should probably get onto that very soon. Hit me up, guys, about just all the news about Impact. Like, I welcome this, like, no joke. Anyone who's listening, message me on Instagram, message me on Twitter, like, wherever you can find me, like, let me know. I do welcome all the wrestling news, and I like to give shout-outs during my segment here, which I did offer. Like, if you guys were on the Facebook and mentioned a comment, I said I'd shout some guys out. No one took me up on that offer, which, damn it, we're going to rectify that in the next coming weeks. So that was the injury list. So we have, coming off that, potential returns, we have Alexa Bliss. We've talked about Alexa for a while, but it seems like they are still keeping her, like treating her with kid gloves in a lot of ways. How she's still at the Performance Center in the crash pad ring. I don't know what, for the life of me, I probably should have checked what it was called, but she's gearing up for a potential return eventually, and they've actually just said, like, any signs of concussion symptoms, then she is back to square one. So it shows you the level of commitment they have towards Alexa Bliss and how they want to make sure that she is okay, because they want that big female star, especially with the announcement of the new women's tag titles. So while the women are going after the new gold, you still got to keep the women's championship scene fresh. And of course, who is one of the notable multiple-time former champions, like freaking Alexa Bliss? That she's going to be the next generation Trish Stratus. I feel like that's obviously the direction that the WWE are going to go with. But in terms of returns as well, the original Sin Cara has been spotted at the Performance Center. A lot of guys, I believe Eric Rowan, was at the Performance Center. A lot of guys are gearing up for potential returns that may or may not happen in the near future. One, though, I will mention, KO, Kevin Owens. Now, the news on the street is that the WWE have, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, of course, we should say, thanks to Dave Meltzer, Kevin Owens is expected to be cleared fairly soon, quote unquote, but will not be brought back to television until after WrestleMania. Which, what the shit? What the hell, guys? Like, I thought, especially, like, lead up, give the fans something really good to cling to for going into WrestleMania with, like, I was expecting, like, Owens to come back with Zayn. They face Lashley, who is now the Intercontinental Champion. That happened this week. You could have had a nice little, like, Owens comes back. He's the top guy as a face, which is the first time in his WWE run he's been a fucking face, which we should not take that lightly. I don't know. I was hoping he would be back a lot sooner, but imagine, though, the Raw after WrestleMania, depending on how they do it, they could really hammer home, like, Kevin Owens is back. Now, one of the things I like to kind of say, like, he was there but he wasn't there, they have Kevin Owens appear on the Titantron, and during a Lashley match, he might cost Lashley a match, and then the Raw after WrestleMania, boom, Kevin Owens has returned. That would be a nice little, like, we get the heat back with Bobby Lashley. I would love to see that. So yeah, I am really sad that Kevin Owens is not going to be a part of this year's WrestleMania, but as long as it's still fairly soon, again, this is only a couple months away. It seems like he's been away he got injured back in October. He had to have his knee surgery in October, so that's been, nearly 6 months when he finally gets around to it. So it's gone by pretty quick. So we just have to wait a little bit longer, get through it some more. Now, the big story, the thing that I've been mentioning throughout this episode of All The Rest, is the signings. We are in the fucking signing war. And this is made even more big by the fact that WWE have gone on record to say any offers that their talent get, they will double, as long as they can prove in writing that this is what they are going to get if they moved to not just AEW, of course, because there's been a lot of signings, but like places like Ring of Honor, MLW, Impact. If they can prove that these offers are legitimate in writing, WWE will double. Like, obviously, they have the most money, right? And the fact that they are doing this proves that they are hesitant. They are a bit scared. I will use scared because that is the right word. They are a little scared about what is going to potentially happen. This aggressive talent signing policy, because like WWE have been signing people left and right. The indie scene is being like rummaged through. Like no one is safe. I make it sound like it's a terrifying thing. Like, no one is safe. For all you know, you could be, for no like without even knowing, you could be signed up to WWE. Obviously, this is fantastic for all the stars. So, like, because last week when we found out allegedly what the Elite's contract offer was like, how WWE was bending over backwards trying to get those guys on board with WWE, even trying to go as far as to make being the Elite part of the WWE network, trying to give those guys creative control over their stories, a 6-month window where if they don't like their push, they can just leave WWE. A guaranteed storyline between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. They were willing to give all this shit, right? Imagine what they were going to give Omega, because we are still a bit quiet on that front with Kenny Omega. So, all this news, I will talk about a few notable people that WWE have reportedly. A lot of stars are looking to call for their releases. One of the big names, of course, was the Revival. Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder, they apparently asked for their release from WWE, which allegedly, we have no confirmation of this, but if it's true, it makes sense. It does make sense, and of course, who wouldn't want to see the Revival go up against the Young Bucks? We've been teasing this for years. And of course, like the whole, like, fuck the Revival and being the Elite, like these guys would kill it in AEW if they were to finally go over. So while it's not been confirmed that they have asked for their release from WWE, apparently, according to sources in F4W Online, they have been asking about doing more matches in NXT, which either option I am okay with. Either go to NXT or go to AEW. I am all for that, because the Revival would be welcomed back with open arms. My God. If you look at their NXT run versus their WWE run, there's no comparison. Especially the on and off booking with the Revival going up against the B Team, and now with Chad Gable and Bobby Roode. They deserve better. And yes, like someone did mention this to me, the fact that they did have a couple injuries to start off with during their run in WWE, which probably hindered them a little bit. But they deserve to be the top guys. The state of the Raw tag team division is absolute crap. SmackDown there's only a handful of tag teams, but it's so much better. It's leaps and bounds in front of Raws. And it feels like if they're going to ask for their release, this would be the perfect time, and it would kind of like prompt WWE, just like the Young Bucks said, our tag team division shit. The Revival want to leave because the tag team division is shit. Maybe we should fix the tag team division. Crazy thought, huh? We are now the authority. The fans are now the authority. Maybe we should think about that, huh? But yeah, I would love to see the Revival in AEW. But let's keep going with the news. Another union, I should say, Mike and Maria Kanellis, they were recently rumored to have been asked to release from their contracts, saying that they've been unhappy with their position in the company, which, again, no surprises there. Like, they have, like, of course, they had this whole love gimmick, and then all of a sudden, Mike had announced that he had addiction problems, so he had to take some time off, and Maria announced that she was pregnant, which, fantastic for them, very happy for them. But then after that, we haven't really seen them. Like, they've only really started appearing on 205 Live, like, in the past couple months, and after that, and before that, it was dead. And, like, again, like, Maria has actually gone on social media to deny these rumors, vehemently deny these rumors, and saying that she's been in professional wrestling for 15 years. She's been in hospital when people have been injured to hug people, and she's saying, I don't need to stir up shit. I don't need to put others down, right? Whoever's leaking rumors, I pity you. That's her exact words on the socials. Social media is not fact, it's fantasy, a nightmare, or a place for bullies. Like, so, yeah, that seems like an open and shut thing for me, but as much as she said that's Maria out of the picture, but if Mike were to go about the indie scene some more, I would be okay with it. But of course, then, yeah. And again, with these rumors about contracts, we should let you guys know, WWE can say no. They can make sure that all these stars who may want to leave to AEW or to wherever, they can say no, make sure that they sit on their ass until their contract expires. And after that, the wave of publicity or attention will kind of peter down a little bit. WWE could be petty and do that. And of course, every contract is different. No one can just automatically like that. They are out of their contract with WWE. It's a very hard thing to do. We had freaking Mikey Nichols he's coming back to Australia. He's doing matches with the MCW again in the next couple weeks. Like, every situation is different. So those two were the main teams that were quoted to maybe being moving on to other greener pastures. I will say AJ Styles has not yet re-signed with WWE, which he's probably still in negotiations about a shorter work rate. Probably he'd get the Cena package. He'd get the Cena package in a couple ways, like bit more money, bit less house shows, and because let's not kid ourselves, AJ Styles, while he's in the prime of his career, he's in his 40s, and they really need to start thinking about, okay, he's the best professional wrestler in the world right now, but you got to recognize that he can't keep his performance up like this. Something's going to give. He's going to get injured if they try and take care of him. So he hasn't signed yet. Interesting enough as well, Dolph Ziggler. So Dolph Ziggler has changed all his social media channels, and his contract is expiring on the 31st, I believe it is. So, and he's actually opened up a pro wrestling tea store. He was offered a role as a producer with WWE, but apparently he turned that down. The shirts that he has got on Pro Wrestling Tees say Heel Crew and Nemeth Brothers, which he's actually trying to do with his brother Ryan, who is also a professional wrestler. He is Ziggler's younger brother. So, I don't know there. Ziggler looked like to be one of those guys who WWE, again, were going to bend over backwards to make sure that he stayed in the position he was at. In the mid-card, a handful of titles here and there. Of course, he was recently the tag champion with Drew McIntyre, and now he's finished his story with Drew, it seems like, and what's left for Ziggler to do? Unless you're going to push him up some more, he's a freaking former world champion. He would be great sign on the indie scene. He'd be amazing. There's a big shake-up underway. So those are the big WWE names so far that have been listed who could potentially be moving over to other places. Elsewhere in Ring of Honor, we mentioned fucking Rush. I was really looking forward to Rush versus LA Park. I'm not going to lie. When you hype something up as the match of the century, you get a little bit excited. But the other signings they've signed Bandito, which is a great thing for them. Of course, he headlined All In. They've inked new deals with PJ Black, like the Direwolf, and Hot Sauce Tracy Williams. These guys, Ring of Honor are slowly starting to replenish their ranks, which WWE rummaged through throughout the years. If you look at the roster in NXT and in WWE, a lot of those stars are former Ring of Honor stars, and for good reason, because Ring of Honor do have a lot of impressive talent. They know how to find people and just make them stars. But it seems like, again, they've got a lot of stars who already established names for themselves. You've got fucking PCO, Bandito, Brody King, of course, now Villain Enterprises, and PJ Black. So happy for them. And MLW are not left out in the cold. They have signed Mance Warner, as you mentioned. They signed the Almighty Sheik. I believe he's big star in CZW. I think that's correct. And a big signing that I should mention as well, Jacob Fatu. And if you're wondering, Fatu, yes, he is the cousin of Jimmy and Jay Uso, and their dad is Rikishi. Another member of the Anoa'i family has found their way into the wrestling scene. Big shocker. That the dynasty is just growing everywhere. So I would be surprised to see if Jacob would join. I'm forgetting his name, but I would think that Jacob would join his cousin as well, who was part of the Samoan Island tribe, the newly established. Of course, Samu is dealing with cancer at the moment, and he had a recent match last month with his son. They call them the Samoan Island tribe, which was a nice little nod to the original MLW with the Polynesian warrior Mana and all that, which I really liked. That was really sweet. But yeah, I want to see more of the Anoa'i family in MLW everywhere. Of course, why not? Those guys are awesome, every single one of them. So, and I should mention as well, of all these signing offers and rumors, we still have no more word on Kenny Omega. He got recently interviewed about his contract ending with New Japan, which I think it's only a couple weeks now, if that. And all he said was he will not return to New Japan once he ends his contract, which sucks, of course, because we wanted him to kind of entertain the idea, like, oh no, I'll hopefully come back to New Japan and take down Tanahashi or whatever. But it looks like all he can confirm is that he's part of a large international platform. So whether you think he will go WWE or AEW, we don't know yet. He's still playing it up. I feel like he's going to be in AEW, and we just got to wait for the episode of Being the Elite, where he just unveils it to the world and we will all go and lose our shit because, oh yes, you have Omega, and he is a big deal for AEW. And then the AEW news will get even more rampant, guys. It will be even bigger. Let's go on to some other news. I should talk about some AEW. We're talking about signings as well. Apparently, AEW have signed Jungle Boy. Of course, he made his debut with PWG. He's the son of famed actor Luke Perry from the 90210 series. He's a good signing for AEW if the rumors are to be believed. And I'll go through a couple of little AEW tidbits that we've accumulated over this coming week, where one of the things that I thought it was a given already, but Brandy Rose was interviewed about the fact that she be competing in AEW, which of course she is. Cody is a executive vice president, but he's still wrestling. He's not going to stop that. He's in his prime. He's not even begun to hit the prime of his career. The Young Bucks are EVPs as well. So Cody's going to be looking after the men's division. The Young Bucks are going to be looking after the tag division. And Brandy's going to be looking after the women's division, of course, and she's also the chief branding officer. So there is a pretty good structure there they've got in place. So I was surprised Brandy would even have to say that, but yes, Brandy is going to be competing in the women's division. Brandy actually did mention that they're going to have a quote-unquote standard title scene where they're going to have the men's singles title, the tag titles, and the women's title initially. So they're saying all this stuff, and they're saying that they are open to intergender wrestling, which is always good. But again, we mentioned this earlier in the episode. It sounds like they're saying all the right things. And as much as we want to believe them saying that they're doing all that they can, and they probably will want to deliver on everything they say, keep with a grain of salt. They mentioned about the health insurance during the rally, and they kind of went on to the socials after that and reported like, oh, we want to give the stars health insurance. Of course we do, but it's a progressive thing. So as much as that seems like a big thing, and we should mention, like, over in Women of Wrestling, like, they've already done that. Those ladies have full health insurance. Jeannie Buss, the owner of the LA Lakers, has ensured that the Women of Wrestling, which is appearing soon, that they are covered. Of course, they have, according to people like Tessa Blanchard, it has the best production value. A lot of people actually come out to say that. And it has people like David McLean who helped start Glow. Like, so as much as like it's a big deal, like Women of Wrestling did it already. Dead silence from any, like, why is no one talking about that? But AEW potentially could have their stars have health insurance. Oh my god, let's report this. So Women's Wrestling starts Friday night in the US. A couple of hours later on, it's on AXS TV. That would be interesting to see. But that's one of the little tidbits of information that we caught up with AEW. So again, it's good that they're open to intergender wrestling. That's good as well. So they are saying all the right things. And other things we've heard is that they want to maybe, Cody got interviewed recently saying that they want to try and implement a ranking system, which, because Cody wants to treat it like there's like actual performers in AEW and keep track of the win-loss records. So he feels like he's gonna stats of all the wrestlers, which sounds awesome. I do look forward to stuff like that. And then mention that there's going to be no writing team at this stage with AEW, which a lot of people got confused online when we posted this. Like, when they say no writing team, they mean in terms of how people cut their promos, and how they're going to let the stars, like, there's no specific script for once those guys go out on stage, they can like get a message across how they would get their message across, not stick to a script that WWE have made sure that they will find them if they say off course. And people got confused, like, oh, that means that they're not going to, how will they not work with scripts, right? Like, isn't this all predetermined? And it's like, that's totally different. And to that point as well, the origins of professional wrestling go back to the carnies before there was even scripts. Like, so that's just a little thing that kind of made me laugh when we announced that initially. So we've got a lot of little AEW tidbits there. Like, it seems like it's slowly coming together. Obviously, in the next coming weeks, I feel like it's going to ramp up around Royal Rumble time. That's when we'll really get all this news kicking into high gear again. A couple other news bits before we go, guys. Ring of Honor have announced their Tag Wars tournament. They've announced the teams that are going to be competing on the road to the G1 Classic. You've got people like Jay Lethal and Jonathan Gresham, PCO and Brody King, of course, Villain Enterprises, Juice Robinson and David Finlay, who are now in the faction The Lifeblood. You have guys like Colt Cabana and Flip, which Flip's been injured now, so we'll see. You've got like Kenny King in a mystery partner. Like, there's a lot of names here. Some from New Japan, some from other places. Mark Haskins, who was in the news about being in a collaboration event with Progress. I believe with... so Progress had one of the stars for NXT UK, which, of course, the rumours are that the NXT UK stars are having very exclusive contracts. They can't perform for other brands outside the WWE bubble. But again, Progress, they are very familiar to WWE in terms of their structure, so I think they're kind of covered for them. So that's the news for Ring of Honor. I will say as well, guys, for Lucha Underground, this is a shit situation, I'm not going to lie, where Eva Lise has gone on to the social media and she's said that she's in a war with Lucha Underground, the TV production, not the actual wrestling promotion itself, trying to get out of a contract with Lucha Underground for the past year and a half, which this is just sucks. This is just fucking shit. Where Eva Lise is, of course, a former Trios champion in Lucha Underground, and she is one of the few stars on the Lucha roster who had a very exclusive contract with Lucha, and other stars like Joey Ryan have come forward to say like they've had their own issues with contracts with Lucha Underground, saying like stars were given the option to leave Lucha Underground around about season 4. Like, anyone who wanted to leave was allowed to leave, and it seems like everyone who stayed is being punished, which no one wants to hear this shit, because I love Lucha. I love the idea of Lucha, the things that they're able to do, which you never want to hear shit like this. And again, like we mentioned, like, so it looks like Eva Lise, it's the production company, not the wrestling company itself, that is keeping Eva Lise locked in. And with no news of season 5, what's she gonna do? Like, she's in this exclusive contract with this one company, and if this one company is not on the air, then she's no longer performing. She's no longer making money. And like, of course, Joey Ryan, like, stuff like this. It's just a shit situation. As much as I want season 5 of Lucha to happen, and of course, with all this news, like, we want these guys to work. Like, they really need to sort this shit out, because this is, especially around contract time, it's an eye opener for anyone who is, as much as like this is the contract wars now. All these talent need to really look at the bottom line and make sure what they are doing, like what they are signing and what they're signing up for. So I think this is a warning story. This is a good warning story for anyone who is signing up with WWE or with Ring of Honor, AEW, whatever the case is, going forward. We will say as well, over in that side of the world, The Crash and OWE have announced a partnership which will include talent and footage exchanges between the two companies. I'm looking forward to that. The wrestling world is starting to get a little bit smaller and at the same time a little bit bigger. I hope we have Australian sensation Craven, who appears in The Crash. Like, obviously, him with OWE, yes, please. That's all I will say about that. You mentioned Joey Ryan because all the Elite guys actually appeared at a bar wrestling event during the week. It was a really surprise appearance. All the members of the Elite appeared. You had Hangman Page come out, you had Cody and Brandy, you had the Young Bucks come out, all at separate times. Like, they all popped the crowd. It was an amazing. Go watch the video. Should still be out, guys. Go check it out. One thing we should mention is that Cody signed all the fans in the arena to AEW, and then Brandy immediately fired them, saying, like, what the hell are you doing? It was a really fun time. And I will end on a nice little story before we go. We have Ronda Rousey has been signed to play Sonya Blade in Mortal Kombat. Of course, Sonya Blade, apparently Ronda Rousey was inspired by Sonya Blade, and that this is just perfect casting, which, if you're not familiar with the Mortal Kombat series, Sonya Blade has typically, like, she's one of those original characters like Sub-Zero and Baraka. Like, she tries to go after the Black Dragon Syndicate throughout. Really nice little bit of movie news there for Ronda Rousey. So I hope that this is a sign of some more opportunities for her, and just the prevailing theme for this episode, guys. Like, I hope that with all this news, with the contract situations, everyone is able to make things benefit themselves greatly. So with that all being said, guys, thank you so much for listening in. If you like what we do here, please leave us a comment. Please leave us a 5-star review. It really does make a difference because we love to hear from you guys. If you want to follow me, I am Mr. Mysterious with a 107I on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the socials, guys. Hit me up. I do welcome it. If you want to follow us at the B Plus Wrestling, we are at the B Plus Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit, and the B Plus Wrestling everywhere else. And we also have, if you haven't figured out already, we have a Patreon now. If you guys want to sign up and give whatever you can, even $1 a week, $1 a month, whatever it is, guys, it really does make a difference towards making the channel greater. All the money goes back into the podcast and making all this stuff better. We are having a episode coming out with a fan requested bonus episode where we talk about the top 5 best live wrestlers. So that would be an interesting one. So you guys really look forward to that. So with all that being said, guys, like, share, subscribe, hit the 5-star review, and thank you guys so much for listening. I've been Mr. Mysterious, and I'll see you later.
Hold one! Arm drag! You're not doing this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon. Yeah. You just made the list! Oh my God!
So, no speak English.
Dummy! Goodbye and good night. Hold 2!
ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Coming. Roll 3. The moss covered.